everyone, welcome to another video, and today I thought it'd be interesting to briefly touch upon a board game. This is sort of a new segment that I'm doing with my channel where I'm discussing things that are just beyond the general realm of entertainment that I discuss, and I think board games in particular are a lot of fun and are a very engaging way to develop relationships around, and so I thought it would be cool for this episode and particular video to discuss a very popular one that's actually getting some criticism, and that game is Monopoly for Millennials. Now, this type of Monopoly is not like the typical Monopoly that you play because there are relatively different rules and kind of just different ways of going about the game that are not really like any other forms of traditional Monopoly that I've seen. Most of the time when you see a different version of Monopoly, they will pretty much remain consistent as far as the way in which the game is played, but then they'll just change up what the properties are, what the names of certain things are, maybe the rewards or the punishments when you land on chance or community chest are different. But here it's rather unique because it takes those rules of particularly acquiring property and kind of throwing them out the window. So let me kind of go into explaining this game and kind of how it works. So for Millennial Monopoly, you're not playing for money or for property. You're basically playing based upon how many experiences you get. So if you land on a particular experience and someone has not purchased it yet, you can. So there is technically some money involved, but it's more about spending money than it is about acquiring money, so to speak. And if somebody has already claimed the experience, then you still get an experience token as well, or however many tokens it says that you get if you land on that specific one. Now, let me kind of show you guys the board so you can kind of better understand what I mean by experiences. This board's a little difficult to open, but bear with me. So yeah, this is the Millennial Monopoly board, and basically these experiences are include, but are not limited to, a week-long meditation retreat, a 3-day music festival, where was another one that was kind of funny? Friend's Couch, that's another experience. Parents' Basement, another experience. Vegetarian Bistro, another experience. So they're kind of designed to be kind of stereotypical as far as the millennial generation is concerned, hence why the title of the game is Monopoly for Millennials. And basically, as you're going around and kind of playing the game, you can land on something to where you get a chance, and sometimes that chance is either good or bad depending on kind of the situation, sort of similar to how traditional Monopoly is played. And community chest too, you know, there's potential for you to have to pay something, there's potential for you gaining some money. But at the end of the day, it's not about acquiring property because, again, it's not, once all the experiences have been kind of claimed, or once you ran out of the tokens that are in the middle here, like with people landing on the experiences and getting these tokens, then that's when you kind of determine who's the winner. So you flip over these tokens and they have a number on them. So like this one has a number 2 plus, so you gain 2 points basically. And then some of them have negatives. Let me try to find a negative here for you. Yeah, like this one, this guy right here is a -1, so you minus a point. So you don't know which experience token you're getting because again, it's got this side on it. So you add those up, and not only that, but you add up the experiences themselves that you acquire. So if you acquire, let's say, a yoga studio, I believe is one of them, then that experience has a certain amount of tokens or is worth a certain amount of token value. And generally speaking, the one who can get the most experiences, generally speaking, will probably win, but a lot of it really ultimately depends on the tokens here that you end up getting, because that's really what determines when the game ends and when you're kind of totaling up all the points here. So it's a combination of things, and I find it to be a rather interesting way of approaching Monopoly, because usually the way Monopoly is approached is a pretty cutthroat way of approaching it, in that, yeah, it's based upon like how many people can acquire all these properties and basically get a monopoly. But with Millennial Monopoly, it's all about how many experiences you get, and then that's really the ultimate determination of who really wins, and if they end up being positive or negative experiences, you know? So it's a very fun and kind of goofy way of approaching the game. That is not how it's usually traditionally approached. Now, the reason why this game in particular got flack was from none other than my generation of the Millennials. We seem to have found this game somewhat offensive because of, again, how it stereotypically displays Millennials as trying to more acquire experiences um, uh, and then also the experiences within it themselves are not as upbeat, like living on your friend's couch or in your family's basement, you know, so to speak. And even the slogan for this is forget real estate, you can't afford it anyway, I believe. Yep, that's the lovely slogan it's got right there. So I could understand why certain people got a little bit up in arms, because you know there's a lot of people that feel like undermined, especially nowadays, when trying to find, you know, career fulfillment and personal fulfillment, you know, and then seeing these kinds of things that that are kind of poked that poke fun at the current up and coming generation of people basically entering the workforce, more or less. I could see why this would be kind of, it would feel like a slap in the face to some people. But for me personally, and again, I think millennials, my fellow millennials, can take this in stride, is that I don't think the game is designed to be offensive. I don't think it's designed to poke fun for the sake of trying to make millennials feel bad about themselves and where maybe they are in life. You know, I don't think it's trying to give that message off. I think if anything, it's trying to put some humor into these real realities that are reflective of the millennial generation. You know, it's kind of like when comedians poke fun at people, but they're really trying to point to a greater reality that in and of itself is sort of supposed to kind of, again, make you laugh and, you know, make you think about things retrospectively. And I honestly feel that this is what this game was ultimately trying to do. I don't think it was trying to insult the audience or try to demean the audience. I think it was merely trying to present a game that's just played differently and showcases different priorities that are reflective within uh, the millennial generation, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it's trying to say all millennials are like this. I mean, even the majority of this stuff that is even on the board game doesn't really necessarily apply to me. Um, they even say, like, when you start the game, like, oh, start with the person who has the most student loan debt, basically, and I don't have any student loan debt. So again, there's a lot of variety to millennials, and millennials have a lot of different experiences. And to blame a board game for people's uh, struggles and uh, assess the and try to look things through a broader perspective. I think that's really what people, when they criticize this game, are kind of missing. It's like it's not designed to like hate you. It's trying to kind of identify with you and kind of poke fun and laugh at the ridiculousness that particularly the millennial generation has to go through. And I think that's something that's important. And I think it's interesting that the Monopoly company, a board game company, who I believe is owned by somebody, if I'm not mistaken, Hasbro, uh, Parker Brothers. I guess they're two gigantic conglomerates that are part of this game. I don't think they're trying to insult. I think, if anything, they're trying to identify with the target demographic, and in doing so, kind of laugh at it. It's not like it's like that episode in Family Guy when Peter turns into a millennial, basically, and he just goes around acting like a millennial the entire time. I don't go, I'm offended because Peter displays a negative stereotype of millennials. It's like, yeah, I laugh at it because I know I'm secure enough within myself to know that that's not me, but I'm still laughing at it because there's maybe some people that are like that within my generation that kind of, lean toward being like that. It's like, it's not, it's again, it's not trying to say that these stereotypes are the rule. It's just trying to poke fun and have a good time, and in the process, give the public a different view of playing Monopoly. Like all of the other times, it's been about, okay, let's see how much money this person has, and then how much property they have, and how the two are basically going to outbid each other to the point where one person is just kind of done, because again, Monopoly takes a really long time to do, and sometimes winning, at least for me, is not worth it. Like, I'm just like, okay, just take all my money, I'm done. I clearly don't have that much money compared to you. Just take it, I'm done. I don't want to play this anymore. But with this one, it goes by so quick because you just play until the chips are all gone, or all the experiences have been claimed by somebody, and then you just total up the experiences, and that's it. There's not this constant, continuous, arduous, burden. So especially if you're constrained by time, and I can understand how the millennial generation could be time constrained to a certain point. And it might also be a reflection too of our attention span, and that our attention span isn't that great either. But I mean, at the same time, I appreciate sometimes shorter games than longer ones, because sometimes the longer ones just get way too much for me. And this approach to Monopoly is, I think, a lot simpler for some people too. And again, you don't have to necessarily be a millennial to enjoy the game. I mean, there's a lot of fun little tidbits in here, especially if you're a person who's of older age and kind of doesn't understand certain things. This is one way to kind of learn the different things the millennials are going through. Because some that are probably within the older generation don't even get it. They don't. like understand like, oh wow, like some people have to resort living to in their family's basements. What? Wow, that's an actual thing. Oh, there's a lot of student loan debt. Wow. There might be too a little bit of a lack of self-awareness, among the elder or older population, about the different things that millennials go through, and it gives them a chance to play Monopoly in, again, a completely different way, which is why this version of Monopoly, at least from what I've seen, is probably the most interesting version, and the one that's caused actually the most offense. But I mean, at the end of the day, I think if you enjoy games that don't really take too much of your time, and you can still play it with a good group of people, and you can really be engaged. I believe this one, though, in particular, might have a people limit. Usually, Monopoly lets you play with a significant group of people. I think the limit here is 6 people. But see, the thing is the more people you add on, the faster the game goes. So it just kind of depends on what kind of speed you want the game to go at, as far as the time level is concerned. But yeah, I think overall this is, I think, definitely a game worth recommending. Again, I understand that there are people that get easily offended and try to think that it's about them. And it's like, it's not about you. There's just certain trends, certain things happening within this generation. And, the Monopoly company decided to monopolize on that. And they made a version of it specifically for millennials. So it's like, I can understand that people might get all up in arms over it. But to be honest, I think life is too short to be offended at something as silly as a game, and a game that's not really designed to be hurtful. I mean, it's not like it's saying millennials are like, terrible people, or or saying that they lack certain things. It's just culminating a certain amount of stereotypes that are sort of reflective onto reality. But you have to be strong enough, I think, within yourself to realize who you are as a person, and realize there are things that you might identify within your generation or within your age group, and there might be things that you don't necessarily uh, consider to be kind of a part of you, even though they're kind of a general trend within your age group. So, but yeah, I think that's really ultimately all I can say, though. If there are any questions, comments, concerns, I'd be more than happy to answer them. And I hope to see you all in the next video, where I'm hoping it to be more of a general entertainment one. But regardless, if you can pick up a copy of this, I would definitely recommend it. But again, there might be limited copies because there's so many people that apparently got offended. But until next time, everybody.